This is for the dreamers, the doers, and the straight shooters. Welcome to the $1 Million Podcast, where we cut through the noise and get real about what it takes to succeed. Hosted by Ramneek Wayne. Here we redefine influence. No fluff, just candid $1 million success stories. Turn your ambition into action and your passion into profit. Influence with purpose.
Welcome to the $1 Million Podcast, and today we have Yasir Zaki with me. If you don't know Yasir is a founder and global CEO for Tender Loving Care. His new initiative, TLC Impact, making really big impact in New South Wales and all around Victoria as well. Let's go to Yasir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Ramneek. Well, look, I'm just a guy that has a lot of passion around disability. It started from a move that I had a few years back from corporate world to helping people. That's how it all started. But I quickly learned that helping people doesn't always pay the bills, unfortunately, which is something I'm trying to change in our sector, to change that narrative. It's helping people should be rewarding. And that took me on a journey of how can I then build a successful journey to help more people. So the more success I have, the more people I can help and keep the right balance in that. I worked in the disability sector at all levels. I started as a support worker, moved up the ranks until I started my own business, did a lot of different education in that space. Learning and building up my knowledge and experience is something close to my heart, because the more I learn, the more I can give back and get good at what I do.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that for the audience, Yasir. And today we are at the $1 Million Podcast, and the purpose for the podcast is changing the definition of influencer. I was in the disability industry, or say I'm still in disability. When I was starting my first business, if I have to say, you was the influencer for me, or like role model for me. And at the society right now, the definition of influencer pretty messed up. So what's the definition of influencer for you?
Look, the way I look at influencers is people that can impact a number of people through a lived experience, right? So this is what I've done. It's a level of mentorship, but at a much more impactful way, where the person is taking the initiative to actually pass the knowledge to others. And the more you do that and the better you do that, then people listen. Now, to become an influencer in a space, it's a mindset and it's an approach. Some people like that bold approach. When they get loud, they get tough. That sort of gives them the edge behind it. And others, it's more about calmness, softness, and just talking wisely. But at the end of the day, it's about the audience and how they receive it, and this shared experience and knowledge along the way. If you're targeting an audience, then it's easy. We call it market segmentation, right? So you segment and you pick one segment, and then you target it. So if you talk about, for example, a disability community or ethnic communities or Indian community, then you cater for that. And you target your topics around that, and you get people that are very interested to that community, correct? But what you're doing here is not that. What you're doing here is a much more broader format.
It is 18 to 35.
Okay.
Who are on a wrong footstep.
Okay.
Who, like if you look at a youth criminal, or if you look any news, youth committing crime, or the people not following the right footstep is end up as the role model they're following.
Okay.
So if in Queensland they call it the flashing media, so they see somebody flexing something and they want to do that as well. If the person sees somebody stealing car, they become their role model and they want to do that. And where the most of things come from? TikTok, Instagram, on the reels. And people like us not go on a reel as a role model. We might promote our business, but we need to be role model for the youth as well. If we're not going to become role model, then we can't blame them. So that's where we going out in a bigger version, not in a disability, not in a specifically in social impact.
No, and I think that's great. And that's why an average age between 18 to 35 is what, 24, 25, 30, give or take. How many of these guys look up to politicians? How old are you?
32.
How much do you listen to politicians talking about anything? Okay.
But that's where things change.
So I'm just surveying you on the spot there.
That's where things change as well. I'm Indian origin, and I'm going to launch this podcast in 6 different countries. And when I go to India, everybody want to be a politician and they look up on a politician and they love it.
And that's what I was trying to get at in a very respectful way. Sometimes our upbringing, I'm Egyptian background, and I lived in Egypt a long time ago, but there's always that mentality of politicians. Even a mayor in Egypt is a much more powerful position than a mayor here.
Yeah.
All right. We see politicians in a completely, they work with all this security, you hardly can meet them, and here we can pick a phone and just call them. I'm just, look, go hard, it's great, but I'm just saying from my perspective only, and I could totally be wrong in it, politicians serve a certain purpose. Is that purpose aligning with the purpose of your podcast? If yes, go hard. If the purpose is not aligning with your purpose, then be very careful so you don't end up being seen as different.
Yeah, I'm
Does that make sense? Because 90% of politicians will only talk about what suits their political agenda, what suits the political, and like if you get a federal minister to talk to you today, and their election is coming up in February, March, 90% of the conversation is about how they're going to get votes. They're not even coming here for anything beyond like that. They might have other intentions, great, but you will always see a segue to that. We've seen this so many times with all of them. When they talk, there's always a push towards the political agenda.
Yeah.
And, which aligns with the bigger picture, which. That could then mix from the audience perspective about the purpose of your program. And you're in control. I'm not in control of your podcast, you are. You lead the conversation. I'll talk openly. We're not prepared with anything, because I'm coming in to talk from my heart. But you lead the conversation to meet your podcast purpose.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
The politicians will always take away that. In my opinion, my experience anyway.
Yep. Thanks for sharing that. Look, I always call Yasir the wise man. So we know the story, how you came into disability industry, your personal experience meeting that woman on the train. And like we met in a lot of events and we've been talking about, but a lot of people don't know the Yasir who was 20-year-old with a big dream. So what was Yasir like when he was 20-year-old? And what was Yasir's big dream?
Look, I always had passion for success. It just was never an option for me to be successful or not. And success is not about how much money you have to me or that kind of stuff. This is not what I see success as. Right? True wealth is what you gain along the journey. How much knowledge have I gained? How much appreciation to what I've done from others that I have received? And that goes down to mainly two things for me, right? Money comes and goes. We all agree on that. We've seen empires fall. And actually funny, if you look at the last 20 years of the businesses in the Fortune 500, and now look at the change, how many of them are still there? Not many. Yeah. Very interesting, right? The fact of it is, the things that stay is the knowledge you gained and the education you received along the way, and the impact you've done for others. Those two things never get taken away from you in the journey. Right? You still remember the good people that have done something 20 years ago. It's still there somewhere. And if you have knowledge, you can always rebuild again and rebuild again and rebuild again. So this is a big part of my life. So when I was 20 years old, back to your question, I focused so much on that. And every time I got, punched in the face with a scenario that was tough, and not literally punched, but I'm talking about life gets hard. Yeah. I've always had that moment of, this will never happen again. Yeah. That's the learning. Everything that led me to this tough situation, I'll make sure that I don't end up in that tough situation again. And how can I always evolve my life around that concept?
Yeah, and you did it well. So, and yes, you would have faced a lot of problems. Any specific the challenge you faced you want to talk about?
When I first migrated to, and I never used to mention this story until I got asked those specific questions that put me on the spot. But when I first came to Australia, I was homeless for about 3 weeks. And I had a very tough run after that until I built momentum in my life where I had enough stable income to be able to pay rent and build my future. And to a point that I used to eat 1 meal a day, literally, so I can last longer with what I had. So that was one of my toughest, probably, situations. And my ego was kicking in that I couldn't call my dad and ask for money. I'm going to make it. I've traveled to build the future. How can I call my father, ask for money, and tell him I failed? So that was probably one of the toughest situations that I faced. And I would say it's the igniting force of everything else beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And yes, you might don't know about it. Eventually, here, no. I faced that scenario. I was homeless not for 3 weeks in Melbourne. So I arrived back in November 2016. So there was a few months gone by, and I ran out of the cash. I have it, and the people I was living with kicked me out. And it was Christmas Day, and I asked for help from my family, and they can't send me the money because it's Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and there was a scenario I was homeless and eating literally leftover food. But what have you keep going from that circumstance? For me, it was like, I can't go back.
Because making it was not an option. So it's all a mindset, right? I never came here to go back. I never came here to fail. I never came here not to build my legacy. I came here to achieve all of these things. The question was not about if I'm going to do it or not, and have I done it or failed or not. That was never a question. I never saw it as failure. I don't shed a tear on it. I'm not upset about it. I don't see it as a sad story at all. That's why I commonly never really used to share it until I got put on the spot multiple times to share it. The fact of it is, it's life. The winner, it's like a boxing match, right? When you go in a boxing match, and this is resembling life, the winner is not the one that doesn't get punched. Both boxers get punched. Both boxers get bruised eyes. Both boxers get smashed. The winner is the one that can handle more beating and coming out the other end. So how much beating can you get from life while you're still standing? That's the question. And I can tell you, I can take a lot of beating and still stand. And that's what happened. I've been through a tough time, but I won the match, and I just kept going.
Yeah, and that's great. And I believe your business in more than 10 countries. What took you to go globally? So there would be all like audience here who be at a startup space and want to know like what passion they should follow. What have you keep going? What took you globally?
Look, it all starts from what you want to do. Right? But the concept is, my purpose is to provide vulnerable communities quality of life. Right? This is what I want to do. So whether that's disability, whether that's refugees, whether they're Australians that are disadvantaged, like domestic violence and other, homelessness, all that kind of stuff. This is my purpose. Now, to do my purpose, I had to target what is quality of life. I had to understand, break down what is quality of life. And we came to that conclusion. That's my definition of quality of life. A good job, good employment, good health, good education, and good accommodation. If a person has a good job that they can put food on the table, if a person has good health, if a person has good education and a good place to live in, that is quality of life. Anything else is a bonus. If I have more money, it's great. If I'm driving a fancy car, awesome, well done. If I can go on holidays every day, beautiful. But without them, I still have quality of life if I have the other four. This is how I built everything in the business. Everything we do is around those four, specifically how to give quality of life. And that meant for me to do that successfully and sustain the business, I need to get out of the 100% funded by the government approach. Because the government will give you $1 and it will tell you how to spend it. Right? Which is fair, it's fine.
Perfectly.
If I wanted to get creative and build an ecosystem that delivers these four quality of life aspects, then I needed to go beyond that. And that's when we diversified, and then we ended up going internationally and build quite a significant business overseas. And that's all to develop the ecosystem to be able to deliver the quality of life for people and create stability in the organization without relying on one source of revenue. So it's de-risking.
You started here from zero and built a multi-million-dollar organization, and you started in a few different countries, and you started again and again from zero in different countries as well, and you never hesitate. What's the three things when you start in a different country or a different place or different business is working for you, and people should adapt it?
First thing is, don't do anything random. I never just go and do something.
I did it.
You know? I know, we don't do things randomly. It's all strategically thought through. We analyze and segment what we want to do. We're very specific about what we want to do. And then we can evolve from there, but the starting point is always very specific, very targeted, and with a lot of market research into it. And the third thing I would say, don't get too excited on opportunities as you travel. Because when you go to somewhere in another country, opportunities keep coming at you, and then you can get excited about something, and that can sometimes cause you distraction, which is not very good. I would say one of the things that tops all of this is finding the right mentor that has done it before. So not advice, mentorship. Because the difference, I don't take advice and I don't give advice, by the way. I don't believe in that. What I do is I give mentorship, I give my experiences. This is what I've done, this is how I've done it, this is what worked for me, and this is what I've learned on the journey. You take that and you can then break it down and see if it works for you or not. And I only receive from people that have done it before, because that's a track record, it's proven methodology. So finding someone that has done that and say, okay, you know what, that makes sense, or it doesn't. I met someone that went overseas to Dubai and went to launch and did all these things, and did all amazing things and whatever. And I said, look, Dubai is a hustling place. It makes it very easy to get in, and it makes it also very easy to get out. To do it right, there's a whole methodology behind it. If you don't do it and you don't understand what it means, don't do it, because you're going to go 1-2 years and you're going to walk away. And that person went in for 2 years and ended up leaving and called me and said, yeah, so you're absolutely right. That's my experience. You know, and when I went and did it, I spoke to someone that's done it and worked for them, and I said, how did you do it? They told me, and I followed, and it worked. And that's what happens.
Ever you tired hearing it? Are you right?
No, I'm not always right. I try to be.
The next would be like when if people are gonna look for you and they get to know what's the global CEO? What it mean, global CEO?
Sounds fancy, doesn't it?
Yeah, because I've been like nowadays a lot of fancy definition coming. I know what CEO, but what is global CEO?
I run multiple country operations in multiple businesses. Every business is a standalone business, completely independent. It has either a managing director or a CEO that runs it. And this group of MDs or CEOs, they report into me, being the global CEO, running the global operations. And that's what it means, just running a global operation.
The purpose, again, I come back to the purpose of the podcast. We had to change the definition of influencer as well. And there is a lot of youth looking to get rich in overnight. But anything you want to say about that? Like, what is it can be success hit on one night?
The problem is a lot of people don't understand what success looks like.
Yeah.
All right. And it's different from one person to another, right? So if you want to get rich, there is recipes of getting rich. If you want to have a legacy, there is recipes to have a legacy. If you don't put the recipes in, your success is not going to taste very good. Some people can go sell drugs to get rich. That's a bad recipe, and the outcome is not always very pleasant. Okay, so the fact of it is, if you want to get rich, you need to understand the recipes of getting rich, and then when you put the recipes together in a very clear manner, then you can deliver that outcome. And if it's whether getting rich or building a legacy or helping people, whatever that success looks like for you, I don't have a judgment call on it. What I would say is, do you understand what success looks like for you? Is it clear in your head what success looks like? Because when you achieve it, how do you know you succeeded? Right? You need to know what it looks like. And that's where a lot of people fail. A lot of people see success as having a lot of money. They don't put a number to it. They don't understand how to make it. They don't understand the recipes behind it to deliver it, and how much impact it will deliver when that happens. I'm not saying only impact on the community or people, but even impact on yourself. Money changes people. So if you don't even understand the person you want to be when you're rich, that's dangerous in its own. You know, even if you made it, you don't want to be a person that changed completely because of the money. You want to still hold on to values. You want to hold on to good things and make that wealth add value to you and not take away values from you.
Thanks for answering that. I think I have a follow-up question from there.
Please.
How
please.
Yassin measure his success then? $1 million, 100 million. How Yassin measure his success?
I don't have a financial number to it at all. Never did, never will. My success is to run the largest healthcare provider in the world and to be able to change people's lives. It's my purpose in life to help vulnerable communities to have a quality of life. And that's all I do. And if that generates wealth for me, great, I'm happy, it's a great outcome. But that's not how I measure my success at all. When I say something to someone, I only talk about it from my heart. I never have hidden agendas. This is actually, I'm very conscious of that. Yeah. I said exactly how I believe in it. And I always tell people, take it, analyze it. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it.
What are the challenges you're facing when you say like now you want to run the biggest provider and want to change the quality of life for the people with a disability as well? So what's the challenges?
I look at it differently from what is the challenges, if you don't mind me just to answer slightly different. Challenges come and go, all right? So you just have to work through them. I endorse challenges. I take it in, we do whatever, all right? If I've got a challenge, I break it down, get a bit of a plan around it, find a risk management approach and a contingency plan, and we pivot and we move forward, all right? So challenges is just part of the journey. The way I look at it is more about the opportunities. Am I pursuing the right opportunities that will deliver? This is the actual, what I would call the real challenge, right? Finding the right opportunity that makes sense, delivers the outcome I want without taking away from everything else we've done. Because a lot of businesses have done that. A lot of businesses would jump after an excitement about something. Intention is good, delivery is good, everything makes sense. But that then ends up not adding value to the whole ecosystem, and it takes away from it. So finding the right opportunities that align with everything we're doing, it keeps us on track with our purpose. We don't end up getting out of our purpose, and at the same time delivering these beautiful outcomes that adds value to the ecosystem we're building. This is probably the most that I would say we put effort in not to get it wrong, because you could easily get it wrong. And it's important for us to get it right.
You admire the challenges, you embrace them, and you get the result of that. And any chance of life you feel burnout with these challenges, running different countries? What's burnout look for you? What's the definition?
It's not in my dictionary. I mean, I don't dismiss that it exists. I don't feel burnt out. I'm pursuing my dream.
Okay.
How do you get burnt out from achieving it? Like I'm in the heart of my dream.
Yeah, I am with you, but the people say, "Oh, don't work too hard. You're gonna get burned out." Like my CEO will come and tell you, "Oh, you need to take some time off. You're working so hard." So you get these comments?
Of course, all the time. And I give you, how do you do it? You know, you're overworking. I send emails. 2:00 in the morning, and at 6 a.m. when I'm in a meeting, time difference, I do meetings sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. The question is, why are you doing it? And if you have your why intact with your purpose, then it's no longer a job that I have to do. It's more, I actually really want to be there because my presence at that moment would make a difference. And it takes away all the thought or all the negative thought out of it. I honestly, like, every time you'll see me, I'll have a smile on my face, I'll have a calm nature because I'm content with what is happening in my life. I'm fine with it. I don't do anything that I don't believe in, and I don't do anything that will make me feel burnt out. I love what I do.
So what do you want to say about the myth people have work-life balance?
No, look, work-life balance is a very interesting concept because you have, if you notice in what everything I'm saying, I'm always talking about I define this. I define what quality of life means. So all these big highlights that everyone uses, I define them. Okay, what actually does it mean? What does burnout mean? What does a dream mean? What does a goal mean? Right? And if you define that clearly and you break it down into pieces, you'll get to the conclusion you need to get to. And I'm big on that. I define everything.
There's another myth built around. It's a lonely top there. So is it really lonely up there when you hit that that much success? You have a people, but it's like.
Well, it is, and lonely not in a way that maybe people might perceive it. It's not like I sit down and I have no one asking about me as such. I do have a lot of people around me. It's just sometimes the level of conversations you have can naturally change to become one-sided, right? And that is what I mean by loneliness, which means like I've got people around me, but when I talk to them, it's a lot of people trying to understand, and that's fine, and they're doing the right thing, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. But from my perspective, it's always a one-way side, and that creates loneliness in this side. I want to have a challenge. Then who do I talk to? What's the networks that I have around me? And I'm building on that. I work on that very significantly. But yes, it does get lonely, not because you don't have people around you, it's more that you don't have people that you can discuss certain things with.
Yep, totally agree on that part. And that's from there, it's remind me of the saying with like birds with a feather flock together.
Yes.
So there would be a lot of people who are in the journey where they want to start up the business and they're looking at you and they will be having a challenge for the finding right people. So how Yasser find the right people around him?
Look, the alignment with my purpose and value systems. I'll tell you an interesting concept, right? So people in business, when they start a business, I'll tell you a journey of a business, in my opinion, right? If you want to start a business from scratch, a lot of people, they apply their own skills before they start a business. Yeah. Very common, right? Someone works in a restaurant, they go and open a restaurant. Someone worked in a marketing company, they go and open a marketing company. Someone did videography, they go and open, whatever, right? So it's such a common thing. Yeah. But have you thought of reverse engineering that? Okay. So instead of applying your skills first, let's put that aside, park it in for a minute. Yeah. Let's think about the project, all right? If I'm going to start a business, I need to work out my goal. Yeah. What do I want to achieve? And again, what does success look like in that? Yeah. All right. Then I work backwards to where I am today. Mm-hmm. I want to achieve this, very clear, smart goal, very specific, very measurable, very timed. And then I work backwards to where I am today. Then I look at the challenges and the hurdles that I will face to achieve that goal. So, risk management framework, right? I will have a problem in 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how I'm going to fix them. So far, I have not even applied my skills yet. I'm building a plan of success without my skills being part of it. Then I look at the skill sets that is required for the business. Not my skill sets, but the skill sets that will deliver success. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Once I listed the skill sets that will deliver success, what I have here, I've got what I want to achieve and what success looks like, my pathway to that success, what are the things that will challenge me to achieve that success, how am I going to mitigate those risks, how I'm going to deal with these challenges, and what would be the skill sets that I need to deal with all of that. That is recipes for success. That is what I was talking earlier, I have to know the recipes. Once I have that, the chances of success increases significantly and failure decreases significantly. That's when I apply my skill sets. Last step, which commonly people do the first step. Then I go say, okay, these are the skills that I need to succeed. Can I do finance? Yes. Can I do marketing? Not really. Can I do compliance? Yes. So I start ticking what I can do and highlighting what I cannot do. If I run the business, and now I understand the gaps, if I run the business with these gaps, the chances of failing is higher now because I've got gaps that I haven't covered, correct? Have two options. One, find people that can cover the gaps, whether you recruit if you have money, if you don't, partner. It's okay, I'd rather have 50% of 100 than 100% of a 0. Okay?
That's really
correct?
Good. Yeah.
So it's share, get someone to cover the gaps because your chances of success are way higher. The second thing you can do is upskill yourself. If you're willing to go and learn finance, for example, then go and do it. But if you start a business without covering these gaps, the chances are not the highest. You might make it, that's luck. We don't rely on luck in business. All right? So that's my methodology around success and how to build a business. And that concept, it's just changing the narrative a little bit. It's not always about what I've done before, it's about what I want to achieve and how can I build around the framework.
Definitely, I can see that strategy is perfectly working. I wish I would have a chance 2 years ago to listen to that.
That's all right.
That would be fun because whatever you say it makes sense because I follow that footstep and it's really right. And we have people here who are on either TikTok or Instagram scrolling the 10-second reels and looking for instant dopamine. How you want to define the success? Is be instant? How you define it? In 3 words or in a one line, you have to define the success.
I'll say more from an experience point of view because I can talk a lot more than a sentence in that space. But I'll say, don't focus on the hurdles to achieve the goal. Focus on the goal and then deal with the hurdles. A lot of people pay attention to what challenges them to achieve the goal. But I would say always keep an eye on the goal, and then whatever comes in the middle, just work through it. Then you get to the goal. Because you'll never get to the goal if you focus on the hurdles.
Now we come to the point where we at $1 Million podcast, and everybody know how the $1 million looks like. If they don't know, they know at least how many zeros are in $1 million. But how $1 million mindset look like?
Literally taking failure as a learning curve and not as a demotivational thing. So a lot of people, when they fail, they give up. Right? It's such a common thing. But I think $1 million mindset is more around my failures is exactly what defines my success and not the other way around. Endorsing the failures as you go, learning from them, and making sure you don't repeat them again. And you can repeat that cycle all the time because you'll always have failings and you always have winnings, and you just keep failing to keep winning.
Thanks, Yasir. And any message you want to give to the audience who want to follow you? Any message you want to give to them, or who want to follow your footsteps? Any specific message you want to give to them? Except don't give up.
Well, look, always a reminder that what brings you here is not going to take you there. In life and in business, the things that worked in the beginning of the journey might not necessarily mean they're going to work in the second stage of the journey. So you need to always reevaluate everything you're doing, restructure if need be, rebuild the foundation correctly every time you want to take to the next level. Because whatever brought you here is not going to take you there.
Just again, thank you. Thank you for
pleasure.
coming on $1 Million
Podcast.
Well,
thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. I think there's a lot to learn from you. And can clearly see resilience, adaptability. Like there's a few are flashing here.
Thank you.
Definitely, yeah. But I don't know. I will put in my lifestyle from you. And thank you again.
And that wraps up this episode of the $1 Million Podcast. I hope you found today's insights as inspiring and actionable as I did. Remember, the journey to success is a marathon, not a sprint. And every step you take brings you closer to your goals. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Your support helps us bring more incredible guests and valuable content every episode. Got questions or feedback? We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media. All the links are in our show notes. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, stay inspired, and remember, success is a journey, and we're just getting started.